I don't care if you're fit naked or not fit naked. I don't want to know or think about you naked. Like, oh, like it's okay that you're more fit, so we can imagine a more fit naked Paul. Great, thanks, Paul. We appreciate that.
Okay, I'm in my shower, obviously, butt naked.
Hey friends, Mr. Producer here, and I wanted to let you know that registration for the Equip Expo 2022 is officially open. Brian has partnered with Equip to help save you 50%. That's right, not 10%, but 50% off registration. Now, if you want to support Brian and all of the amazing, helpful content that he puts out, this is a great way to do it. We'll be sharing more details as they come down the pike, but we can't wait to see you at the biggest green industry trade show of the year right there in Louisville, Kentucky, October the 19th through the 21st. Don't forget to register today with the link that's in the show notes and use the promo code BRIAN. That's BRIAN.
You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. It's your host, Brian Fullerton here, hanging with you guys, and good morning. Well, guys, today we have a returning guest onto the show, one who is a friend of the show and one that you guys know and love. And we've got none other than Mr. Paul Jamison with the Green Industry Podcast joining us this morning. Good morning, Paul. How you doing, brother?
Good, Brian. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. It's first thing in the morning here. We're actually kind of batching out some podcasts here, which is super exciting. I got a couple back-to-back shows that we're recording, and that's how I create all my content on social media to keep the wheels greased and things moving forward, man. So I got my morning raspy voice. I usually don't do any podcasts, Paul, until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. I'm not a morning voice person, so if my voice is a little raspy this morning, guys, I apologize. But Paul, you're up and at 'em, man. You're usually ready to rock and roll. What time are you getting up these days, brother?
Usually about 5:37 or 5:38. I automatically wake up usually at 5:37 or 5:38. It's crazy.
That's
I'll
awesome.
walk in my kitchen and look on my microwave, and it's 5:37 a.m. or 5:38. Somehow my body just automatically wakes up at that time.
Yeah.
No alarm clock.
That's awesome. It's really fun getting up 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. This weekend, believe it or not, like our Emmy's sleeping. She's been doing great. Thank God. So mom's getting a little bit of sleep. Usually just during the work week, same thing, man. I'm up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. My body, I just spring up. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm like, there's work to do, things to organize, emails to shoot out really quick before we're running out the door to go mow grass for the day. But I don't know, there's just magic in the mornings, sometimes getting up early. But it's like the Marines, like we do more by 8 a.m. than you guys do all week, right? One of those deals. So, but yeah. That's awesome, man. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the Green Industry Podcast. We've got some exciting things that you've been working on, and then also just a couple highlights. Like you have a summer tour coming up, so I wanted to kind of dance on that. But really, it's just fun to check in with people every couple months. Paul, I'm out there every single day cutting grass, laying mulch, doing the deal. I listen to your show every morning. Usually it's my first one that I pop on yours, and then usually I'm already done with yours by, like I said, 8:30. And then I go over to Caleb Allman, Kid Contractor Podcast. His podcast drops Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. And then usually I'll listen to my episode of my own show just to kind of remember the guest and the interview that I did and just kind of try to get better at my questions and, just learn for myself even. So about 10 a.m., I'm usually done with my podcast, and I'm like, dude, we need more content out there in the industry. But it's great having you on every morning, man. It's just like that. I think you call it the morning show for the green industry, but it gets you like that daily kind of charge up, especially when your guitar riff starts playing, and your podcast starts coming on. But tell me a little bit about the podcast, man. How's things going over there? You have the largest green industry podcast, ironically by the name and then also the numbers. But how's things going over there with the show, man? What's new since we had you on last?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, Brian. I'm curious, how does that go when you're listening to your own show? Because I do the same thing, and I'll be like, "Oh, that was a dud of a question," or I'll be like my own worst critic, like, "What was I thinking?" Like, how emotionally do you handle hearing yourself and being like, this could have been better, but there's nothing you can do about it, and the whole world's listening, and you're like, "Oh man, how's that?"
Yeah, that's a good question. I really, it's funny for all of you guys listening in, like to make a YouTube video or to make a podcast, like it's not typically natural. Like it sounds weird, but like it's a skill set. And so the Joe Rogans, people are like, well, yeah, he gets paid, $100 million a year from Spotify or whoever it was, right? To create content. And you're like, I could sit there and talk for 3 hours to Post Malone. And like, you think so, but the reality is like, when's the last time you've engaged in a 3-hour conversation and it wasn't dull? And I mean, most people these days can't even have a conversation longer than a half an hour, and you're like, or even 15 minutes, and you're like, yeah, okay, this is done. I'm gonna go do something else now. So I don't know. Like, I try to listen to the guys like Joe Rogan ask questions, Andy Frisella. Back in the day, there's a sportscaster, Paul. You probably know Jim Gray, and I've always tried to like learn better questions. And of course, Mr. Producer is always sending us cool articles and blogs to help us become better, quote unquote, broadcasters. But I don't know, man. I usually am just so enthralled with having a guest on the show and like learning, and that I don't want to interrupt them really. So I don't know. Usually I just try to like nod and go, interesting. Tell me more. So I don't know.
That's my go-to line too. I got that one from Mr. Producer's list. I printed out, Mr. Producer sent us a list of like questions if the conversation starts to slow down. That's interesting. Tell me more. I literally go to that one as well. Yep.
It's like, why is that? Or how come? Or what made you think about that? What really good one too is tell me about how you feel about this situation or this thing, because when you say like to somebody in real life, like, hey, what do you think about that? Actually, this is a good selling point too. If you guys are ever like trying to close a job and you ask somebody, hey, what do you think? Then they're gonna give this like weird answer of like all these rebuttals and all this other stuff, and it's like the wrong train to get them on. But if you ask a customer that's trying to drop 25 grand on a patio, hey, how do you feel about this? Is this something that you feel like you want to make happen? Then they're all excited and they want to act on their feeling. And so they're more apt to make a decision based on feeling. Like I email customers and I email companies all the time. Hey, do you feel like this is something that you can make happen? And they're like, yeah, like I feel like I can make this happen. But if like you say, hey, do you think you can make this happen? They're like, I don't know. So I don't know. I like asking people like, what do you think? Or what do you feel about this? Or how does that make you feel? But I don't know, Paul, you're the goat of broadcasting. I'm trying to learn from you, brother. But I mean, that's why your numbers prove it, man. So, man, I don't know why you're interviewing me. It's your guest show. You got to tell me what's the secret sauce. How are you posting up these numbers? Are you at 150,000 downloads a month yet on the show? Because if not, you got to be there any minute.
This month we're going. At the time we're recording this, it's in May, and we're on track to blow way by that. So we'll see where we end up for this month, but it will definitely cross 150,000 downloads for the month.
Wow.
Which is really encouraging. But I had humble beginnings in broadcasting in 2012 or 13 it was. I was in Charleston, South Carolina, hanging out with my sister. She lives out there. And ironically, I'm at the pool with my sister. And I'm laying out at the pool, which I like to do. And my phone rings. And it was a guy named Ray Haynes. And he calls me, and he was the general manager at one of the largest radio stations in Atlanta. And I was like, I can't believe he's calling me. And he called me. He's like, hey, Paul. And he's like, how you doing? I'm sitting my shirt off at the pool with all these South Carolina girls. I'm all right. What's going on? And he's like, he said, hey, man, we're starting a new show, new program. We've never done it before. It's going to be from midnight to 6 a.m., and we need a broadcaster. We need somebody to cover that shift. And your name came up. Well, would you be interested? And I had always wanted to be on the radio. Like when I was a little kid, we had what was called camcorders. This was the Christian Schlegels out there. They don't understand us growing up, but we had these big old camcorders. You put a VHS in and all this stuff. And I would go around and I love being on the camera. I love public speaking. I love the radio. Like some people are terrified of public speaking or being on camera. I love it. Like it's fun for me. And so anyway, I was like, absolutely, that sounds incredible. And he's like, all right, we'll swing by the station next week and we'll get you signed all the paperwork and do an orientation and get you started. And so I think it was 2013. I started from midnight to 6 a.m. being on the radio. Oh man, those first couple weeks, it was so bad. It was horrible. My performance. And there's a guy, so I'd be on from midnight to 6 a.m. And then at about 5:45 in the morning, David Stein would roll in. He was the morning personality from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Okay.
Well, before he came to Atlanta, he used to have a national syndicated radio show from Los Angeles for, I think it was Fox Sports, or one of the biggest stations. And it was syndicated means he sits in the studio in Los Angeles, but it plays on, hundreds of radio stations across America.
Okay.
And you couldn't have had a higher, in the sports radio world, at the time, there was no elevation from that, promotion. He had the best job in radio talking about sports to a gigantic audience. Well, long story short, he moved to Atlanta, and it was a demotion for him, but he took the job at this radio station because he met his wife here. And long story short, so I had this world-class broadcaster. I mean, he used to be before he was in sports, he did broadcasting and politics. He was at the White House hanging out with presidents, sports celebrities, you name it. He's a big, big deal. And he would come in at 5:45 in the morning. I was like, dude, you are such a good broadcaster. How do you're so smooth. How do I get better or whatever? He's like, you need the reps. You need the reps. You need the reps. And from midnight to 6 a.m., he's like, just keep listening to yourself. That's why I asked you. He's like, do your segment and then listen back to it and listen how you could have done it better and get in reps. He's like, you don't have enough reps. He's like, get a few more 100 reps in.
Sure.
And then come talk to me. And that was his advice to me, is like, just start doing it more and more. And so I was in the night for 2 years, from midnight to 6 a.m. talking. There's probably like three guys out there listening. I know a police officer would listen to me every night, and a few other guys. But those reps prepared. I had no idea it was preparing me for this opportunity, but
sure,
I did that. And then I listened back, and it was like, oh man, that was horrible. But
do you feel like you'd have like the podcast you have today without God preparing you with the radio show? Like, because
it prepared me, and also my mentality. So David would come in. Him and his wife had an incredible radio program from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. It was a morning show, and they did it every single morning, Monday through Friday for 4 hours. Now they would play some music in between them talking, but they'd come on 4 times an hour, and they would just talk for 4 or 5 minutes, and it was so entertaining, and so many people in Atlanta listened to them. And what I realized, what I took away from that, I was like, well, I could do that for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. That's nothing. They do it for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so people are like, how do you do a daily podcast? Oh my gosh! And I was like, it's only 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It's not a 4-hour show. You know what I mean? And so I just took a play out of their playbook, the morning show, and was like, oh, well, I'll just do that. And, I've been off to the races with it. So it's a lot of fun. Now, where they had a strength that I don't have is they had such a big show. They would have guests always come into the studio. So everything they did was in person.
People come to them.
So that's my ultimate goal. Joe Rogan, Elon Musk Elon Musk is coming in there, and whoever else he's having on the show, Ronnie Coleman. I just watched that episode. He's a big bodybuilder. Oh, Ronnie. But Ronnie came into the studio, which is now in Texas.
Yeah.
I used to be in LA.
Isn't that wild?
So
can you imagine maybe you're just like Joe Rogan's assistant or the secretary or like the office person, and like one day it's
young Jamie.
Yeah, is it young Jamie? Yeah, it's like
that's Mr. Producer. Yeah,
Mr. Producer. It's like I can only imagine like one day Robert Downey Jr.'s coming in, then the next day, like you said, Elon Musk, and then the next day, okay, it's an off day because you're interviewing Edward Snowden, in Russia somewhere. But then like day 4, it's Steve Aoki. And then, number 5, it's Donald Trump.
Gary V dropping by.
Yeah. Gary V casually dropping by. What up now? It's like, I'm gonna garage sale the heck out of this thing, man. And it's everybody's seen those Gary V spoof videos. They're hilarious, man. But it's just like, just the caliber of person that comes in. It's like 100 millionaire, billionaire, 100 millionaire, like. And these are like who's who. No, like Jocko comes in, then some other 5-star general guy comes in. It's just it's wild.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, just dude, these are like Ben Shapiro comes in. These are like one in a lifetime kind of interviews. I don't know how to say it, but like, and it's like, dude, every day. So people are like, and then Joe Rogan to not be like phased by any of these people. I don't know. Like I would still probably turn into a fanboy if I had certain people hop onto the podcast. I do actually. I like if I have Tom Wheelwright or Robert Kiyosaki type people, I'm just like, all right, Fullerton, don't mess this up. And I try to do some show prep, Paul. I'm not as good as you and Dr. Frank. You guys are always razzing Paul and I, or Caleb and I. And I'm like, yeah, I'll put my show notes together about 3 minutes before we start this thing. Because, dude, I'm spinning like 8 plates, going 100 miles an hour. But I'll tell you what, your show prep and your professionalism that you bring to the show, it's starting to show. I mean, it's like you said, it might have been slow beginnings and humble beginnings, but 150,000 downloads a month. I mean, that's for context, guys. We're probably gonna get 115, maybe 120 if we wrap up strong this month. And dude, out of nowhere, like the last 4 or 5 months, maybe your podcast has just blown up. What? Give us the sauce, man. Like, what do you attribute that to? What do you think it is? Is it just the thing finally getting some major traction and attention, or the regularity of the show? Because whatever you're doing, it's working, man.
Running a successful lawn care and landscaping business means you are working hard and smart. You're smart about investing in equipment to grow your business, to be more efficient, go the distance, and take more on. Cujo Yardware is working hard to provide you with the absolute best footwear options to help you get the job done. You want efficiency? Trash the grass-stained athletic shoes that fail on slopes and dew. You want to go the distance? Forget those overkill boots that weren't built for the yard. You don't have to choose between lightweight comfort or water-resistant traction because Cujo Yardware was built for you. From the comfortable yard shoes to the tough X1 landscape boots, Cujo selected the best quality materials to optimize the performance and satisfaction of lawn care professionals. While you focus on laying killer stripes, Cujo will be there every step of the way. Check them out at Cujo.com, Kujo.com.
Yeah, and I think the quality of the content is getting better. Like, we were joking about show prep, but Dr. Frank will come over and he'll get on my nerves because he'll come over and he'll sit on the island in my kitchen, and he has like 12 sheets of paper out, and he's got his highlighter, he's studying, and he's like, I was like, come on, let's just go hit record. I'm not ready. He's like, we got to talk about this. Like, there's an excellence to it. Like, he really wants to bring a high value perspective on marketing. He specializes in talking about marketing.
Sure.
He actually built a multi-million-dollar business, and their profit margins, this is impossible in a home service-based business, but their profit margins were near 90%. He ran the most leanest, meanest operation, but he knew how to do marketing. And so that's a whole nother story for another day. But
Sure.
I think the quality of guests have been improving. You know, you're going to be on the program tomorrow.
Yeah.
Keith Kalfas is coming up next week. A guy named Ron Henry, he has the nicest yard in America, in my opinion. He's on the show. So the guests are getting better. The audio quality is getting better. And I think because we have an archive of 700 episodes, I'm hearing all the time, guys are like, oh, I just found your show last month, and I've already listened to 130 episodes. Or I was actually reading one of your rating and reviews. Your rating and review game's strong, Brian.
Thanks,
you're going to hit 1,000 ratings and reviews here soon.
Thank you.
But one of the guys said that he was thanking you and Mr. Producer, and he says, I started back at episode 1 of Fullerton Unfiltered, and I just got caught up, you know, now I'm current. He listened to 300 plus episodes or whatever.
Wow.
And so guys are also doing that for my show, which is 700, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're just going back. And I told the guy, cause I had a guy recently tell me this, and he's shout out. He's from Arizona, Jose. And I was talking to him, and I said, dude, don't go start back at episode 1. I was like, those are kind of rough. I was like, start at episode 700 and whatever, we're at 20, and then go to like 719, 718 and work your way back because the newer episodes are better. And like I mentioned earlier with the reps, I feel like I'm getting better with each episode. I always want to be, this is one of my former customers. He moved to Miami now, Ricardo Allen, but he would always talk. I always ask him, how are you so successful, dude? He's like, every day I try to be 1% better, 1% better, 1% better.
Sure.
And so with each episode I put out, I'm like, how can I make this better than the previous one? And honestly, Mr. Producers, I have to give him so much credit because people call it tough love, but he'll call me and he'll make observations of how the program could be better. And he's got a unique personality. So say it in a way like, you know, so it doesn't hurt my feelings too bad, but he'll offer correction of how, you know, the show can improve. And then I'll take his hard words and I'll make the adjustment. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. It really is a special partnership and relationship that we have with Marty behind the scenes. Because I can echo that. He gives me his grace as a business partner is amazing. I mean, like, because the show, like Caleb Allman and myself, we're coming in hot. There's times where I'm dropping an episode, recording it, dropping it the next day. And there's other times where I'm booked out 2, 3, 4 weeks. I mean, it just depends, the ebb and the flow of my actual lawn care landscaping business, if I can get time to hop on the podcast. There's times where, to be honest with you, I don't podcast for 2, 3 weeks because we have the queue kind of lined up. But then I'm working 6 days, mowing grass and slinging mulch. Like a year and a half ago, I batched out like 40 episodes during winter in January and February, and then we dropped them all March, April, May. But that's the only way I was like, okay, I can't do everything until I get more help, and I'm still building my team and some systems around all that. So it's a juggling act. But one thing I'm hearing you say, Paul, and this is I just want to really just say great job is, you always hear like the 10,000 hour rule, with Malcolm Gladwell, and think about it, like you have 700 plus episodes that you've recorded, and at a minimum it's a half hour, but when you really 10, 15 minutes, yucking it up with your friend or your boy or your bud, before you start. Then you got 30, 45 minutes on the show, and then another 15 minutes you always catch up after the call. Or sometimes there's times where I've talked to Julio Tomei for 2 hours after just talking shop. But at a minimum, you got 2 hours or an hour into each episode, right? And then you have 700 episodes. So you've put in 1,500 to 2,000, 2,500 hours maybe into the show, and that's outside of the broadcasting you did professionally back in Atlanta, at the radio station. So I know you're moving towards that 10,000 hour mark to become a top level professional elite at whatever that is, guys. I mean, you guys mowing grass and laying stripes. Some of you guys have logged 10,000 hours on lawnmowers, and you hop on that thing and you blaze along like a samurai, and then you get your new guy. He's like, how do I turn the choke off? And you're like, what are you, a moron? And it's like, no, dude, you have your 10,000 hours in, your reps in, and the new guy doesn't. So that's why you're going to be like that professional, elite level. So Paul, I mean, how many hours do you think you've logged so far being a broadcaster since the radio station to where you are today?
Well, in 2013, when I started, or 2014, actually, I think it was April 2014, I did midnight to 6 a.m. for 2 years. I think it was 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And then I got promoted for a while. The general manager, so Mr. Producer's boss was the general manager. That was my boss. And then Mr. Producer was basically one of my bosses as well. He was in upper management. So
Gotcha.
People don't know that, but we joke all the time with Mr. Producer, but he used to be my boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's weird.
But I would sit in the Ray's office, the general manager, and he's like, "Oh, you're not good enough for prime time," and you say too much and too many pauses, and
Sure.
you're not ready, and he's sitting there ripping me apart. I'm leaving, like driving home crying, just like, oh man, because I wanted to be. I don't want to be on at midnight to 6 a.m. where the impact is, and the guy was cool. The police officer listened to me while I was out on the night shift, but I wanted to be on prime time, man. I wanted to be the big stage, the big lights. That's just, some people are like, oh, that's vain or whatever, but it's a real desire. There's something in me for greatness, and I'm not ashamed of it. So I wanted the prime time, you know what I mean? And so I talked to the boss, Ray. I said, I want to be on in the middle of the day. I want the biggest show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so thankfully, because I expressed to him, I'm not content, on this overnight show. I want to be on primetime. He helped me get there, and he gave me so much critique. So I share all this, Brian, to say I did get the promotion. I got the call up to the big leagues, and they offered me a show from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I switched over to that in 2015, 16, 17, 18. And then what happened was, so that was on Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I was on 4 hours every day. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm running the math, but I definitely hit the 10,000 hour mark or whatever.
Wow.
And so that was for like another 3 or 4 years. But imagining running a lawn care business where you can't get started till 2:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
And so it was so difficult. And sometimes I'd have 5 guys working for me. I remember, or 4 or 5 guys working for me one day. and they ran into an issue and they couldn't work. So they're out there on the property sitting there, smoking and talking and playing with their phones. And I'm on my radio show job, and I'm telling the general manager, I was like, dude, I'm burning $15 an hour on these guys, and there's 5 guys sitting there for the next 4 hours. They can't do anything because I'm here. It was a whole long story of why they ran into a problem on the job and with a PETA customer. But anyway, it was so difficult trying to navigate that. So finally I told the boss, I said, hey, I can't do this 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift anymore. I have to give my attention to my lawn business. So then I switched over to the weekends. I'd come in on Saturdays from noon to 6 p.m., Sundays noon to 6 p.m. And then I did that for a couple of years. And then in the spring of 2020 is the most difficult decision of my life. I actually resigned from the radio station, and I went all in on this podcast, which was crazy because at the time we didn't have a big audience. But I really wanted to serve this audience, Brian, because I remember listening to Stan Genetic back when I was in my humble beginnings. Julio had a podcast and Stan Genetic, and that was it. And so you're joking saying, oh man, we need more podcasts, because after you listen to Fullerton Unfiltered and Kid Contractor, Green Industry, et cetera, LCR Media, the next thing you know, it's 10:30 a.m. It's like, I want more.
Right.
But back when I started, I would literally, when I would see Stan drop the new episode, and he had no schedule, it was so sporadic, it was like one new episode, and then 3 weeks go by, there's nothing.
Right.
His audio was absolutely horrible, but I ate it up, and he's sitting there. It was like he's talking into a speakerphone. He's like, all right, we got Mike McAuliffe on the show today. Hey, Mike. And I'm like, I had no idea who Mike McAuliffe was. And I can remember, this is crazy, Brian, but I can remember what customer's property I was on when I heard Mike McAuliffe and Stan Genetic. I was at Julie Gaines' house, and it was in her backyard. Like, my memory can remember the audio I was hearing because that information was so powerful. And I'm sitting there with this bad audio listening to Mike McAuliffe and Stan Genetic talk, and I was hanging on every word. And then Stan had other interviews, and I learned so much from Stan back in the day, but the audio was so difficult to listen to. And Stan's our mutual friend, so I'm not throwing shade. I guess I am throwing shade, but
but it was the wild west back in the day, man. The audio quality.
Oh, man, but what I'm saying is Stan, he stopped at like episode 55. I think Naylor was actually his last interview, because I remember I was so excited. I heard Naylor's interview with Stan, and I sent Naylor a Snapchat, and I was like, dude, you're on Stan Genetic's show, and the Lawn Care Rookie was his Snapchat. He messaged me back, and he's like, thanks for letting me know, man.
Snapchat.
And I was like doing cartwheels in my kitchen, because I was like, the Lawn Care Rookie responded to my DM, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because Naylor and I weren't tight like that back in the day. And I was like, I couldn't believe the Lawn Care Rookie replied to my DM on Snapchat. And all I did was tell him, hey, that was a great episode with Stan.
Right.
But anyway, long story short, I remember how influential a podcast was of getting me the knowledge that I didn't have to run my business more efficiently and smoothly. And I didn't know about quarterly taxes the way I should. I didn't know about to charge what I'm worth. I didn't know about how to organize my finances. I didn't know all this stuff. And I learned by listening to Stan teach this stuff with his guests. So I'm bringing this full circle, because the pain points that I had, which was raggedy audio. For those of you, I don't even know if this show's even out there in podcast land anymore, but it was like he was talking on a speaker, on his computer speaker or something, and the guest would call in, and it just sounded so poor. So I was like, I want to serve my audience with an excellent sound, like where you listen and it actually sounds like Joe Rogan. And so I want to serve with the highest quality information. And so I just have a passion to serve this audience with the content being A+, like rock star content from my guests, and then also the audio being on point. And so I think that's part of why it's picking up traction, is because we're not just willy-nilly throwing this thing together. There's so much intentionality going into who we have on the show and how we record the show. And so I'm just passionate about serving this audience, because I'm imagining the broke, busted, and disgusted Paul Jamison listening.
Right. Right.
When I was listening to Stan in Julie Gaines' backyard, I mean, my life was out of control. My finances were out of control. My business was out of control. It was not successful. I was putting in the work, but there was so much systems and processes and raggedy thinking in my mind that literally, as Stan would teach something, I would have these aha moments. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And like, it was transformational. And so to get to be on the other side of the mic and to help people and to get, I'm sure, the same messages you get, Brian, like, thanks so much for sharing that, man. I just got the biggest job of my life, or whatever the cool stories are. It's contagious. Like I'm obsessed with, making the next episode and changing people's lives. It's fun.
And I appreciate you sharing all that. I mean, I just love hearing the story. It's always encouraging to hear people winning and living their dream and their passion out. One thing that I was just deriving from this when you were talking, I'm just listening and thinking is, you talked about basically going all in. And when what's the old saying out there? Like, if you chase two rabbits, you end up catching neither. And you had this, lawn and landscape company doing okay, but kind of on life support at some times. And then you had this podcast and this radio station career that was okay, but kind of on life support, and basically not doing either exceptionally well. Like you knew the industry and you had a great business, and you also had a great career and really loved the radio station. But it's not like you were all in on one. You were splintered. Your time, your focus, your attention. All that kind of stuff, your energy, and mentally, you're just all over the place. Like you said, you're just running from here, and then did I do a good job on the radio today? And then next thing you know, crap, we're 5 yards of mulch short on this landscaping job, and everybody wants to go home by 6 o'clock. So it's just interesting to see like success principles work out in real life, and people are like, oh, I always thought like success was like this thing that just you were either born successful or you weren't. Right. Or some people were just lucky and other people aren't lucky. And because you see like such a disparity of life and such a disparity of income and lifestyles, and you're like, well, how did that person get that way? And then how come other people are, what do you always say, Paul, broke, busted, and disgusted?
Yeah.
But it is really interesting. I just love seeing like the snapshots, like every year people getting better, or every couple years, or you haven't like, I don't know if you guys can relate, but maybe you haven't bumped into a high school friend in 5 or 10 years, or it's been 15 years. And then you bump into them at a grocery store, at Starbucks, and they look clean, and then you're both checking out, and then you go in the parking lot and you're like, all right, hey, well, keep in touch. One day we'll see each other again. And they're getting into an Escalade. And then you're like, and not that an Escalade is success, but you guys know what I'm saying. It's like, you realize like that person's been making good choices and they're becoming successful. I love getting around people like that. And then I also try to study like what makes people not successful. And I'm just listening to you, Paul. I'm watching you as a friend, but also like as a somebody that I can learn from as well. And it's just really cool to see the 100% laser focused intentionality and commitment you have to the show. And then also coincidentally, and then people are like, is it the chicken or the egg? The results come in where you guys have a top 100, podcast on the regular in the country. It's just really, really cool. And I couldn't be more happy for you. I couldn't be more genuinely excited for you. Every couple of days, me, you, and Marty are in a group chat, and we're just sending notes or updates or stats or info or cool links. And all three are participating. And it's like, I send my screenshot. I'm like, I'm like, hey man, like, how am I doing? And then you like send this other screenshot back and it dwarfs my numbers. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I'm so excited for you. And I'm texting Marty. I'm like, dude, what is he doing? And he goes, I don't know. Paul's just killing it. And I'm like, I'm trying to derive, like, how are you getting more and more success? And I'm just like, it's just, dude, I said this on my, the interview that you did with me just a couple days ago. I said, heathens compete, but Christians inspire. And as a Christian, you inspire the heck out of me, man. And I just want to just give people the time of day to let people know that you're crushing it out there, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I know that the value that you're adding to the green industry is second to none. And I mean, like I said, I'm listening daily, and there's little tips and little nuggets that I'm picking up all the time from just the new guy getting started in the industry who's got 20 lawns and his first little mower and he's just figuring things out, to the Mansky guy that was on, and he's got a $5 million lawn care company with Alcorn Lawn Care, right? Jeff or whatever, right? It's just cool to see all these different folks on the show, Paul. So Hey, really quick, we're kind of getting a little bit towards our time here. I got another interview that's coming up here in a minute, but I just want to say, great job with the show, man. Keep it going. Things are great. Hey, I had a thought earlier, and I probably should tell you this after the show, but really quick, I don't know, maybe a future podcast episode, if you're ever open to it, just a suggestion is, dude, you should do like a show on your whole story. Like start to end. Like, because I know like you grew up in Ohio, and then where I kind of met you and caught up with you and jumped onto the Paul Jamison bandwagon is when you were in Atlanta already for 8 years, 10 years. And then like you were already broadcasting and already be, a lawn care guy. Dude, like you got to get like an hour and a half podcast on your story. Like a lot of people that start a show or a podcast or a YouTube channel, that's like episode 1, but you were already off to the races. But do you have a whole podcast episode that's like your whole story? Like I want to know how you made all these decisions and how you made these transitions, because it's a wild 10 years, dude, those last 10 years for you.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Brian. Well, I'll definitely put together that episode and share the story.
Yeah.
And the exciting thing is that there's still more chapters to be written, and I'm pumped up. I've never in my life been this excited. Like as we're recording this, I'm actually packing my suitcase to go to the beach for a couple days. My parents from Ohio are coming down.
Oh, cool.
My sister lives over there, and her husband, and I've never met my 2 nieces. They're like 6 months old, and I've never met them yet. So I'm going over there for a couple days, and I was in the shower this morning. That's where I have a lot of my great thoughts. Now everyone's picturing me butt naked in my shower. Forgive me.
We weren't doing that. We weren't, but now we all are.
Yeah, no, they are, because I already know it. They're like, oh, man, I didn't want to see that. So I've been working out, guys. I've been working out.
Hey guys, Brian here. I get asked all the time, what's the best work shoe or boots for our industry? As some of you probably know, I absolutely love wearing the Cujo Yardwear. A few years ago, I was wondering why there isn't some sort of light, functional shoe for the lawn care industry. Literally a couple weeks later, I get a message from this new company, Cujo Yardwear, letting me know about the new shoe they created for lawn care. I couldn't believe it, so I tested them out for the first year and have been wearing them ever since. Me and my guys love the Cujos because they are light, comfortable, they keep our feet dry and have a great grip, and they're breathable. Plus, they're a family-owned company. Sean and Kelsey are a brother-sister team that seriously care about offering the best products for our industry. They started with the yard shoes, came out with the X1 composite toe boots, and are launching a new slip-on shoe this year. Check them out at Cujo.com. That's Kujo.com. And don't forget to use Brian's 10 to save 10%. I don't care if you're fit naked or not fit naked. I don't want to know or think about you naked. You're like, like it's okay that you're more fit, so we can imagine a more fit naked Paul. Great, thanks, Paul. We appreciate that. Okay,
so I'm in my shower, obviously, butt naked. But I had this thought. I was like, man, I don't want to go. I mean, I love my family and I enjoy seeing them. But I was like, I don't want to drive 5 hours to go to the beach today because I got so much work to do and I can't wait to do it. Like, I'm so excited. I'm in this zone right now. I'm in this rhythm. I'm in this routine
where
I can't wait to wake up in the morning and actually make the next podcast episode or the next video or get to talk to you or where my life's at right now. And the reason I'm cherishing it and appreciating it and so thankful for it is there were so many years, like you said, where it was this, I'm doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and getting no traction and just, it was frustrating and life was a burden. And I felt like I was out of sync with God's plan for my life.
Right.
But now to actually be in that zone where it's like, I'm excited to wake up in the morning and start working. And the point of the vacation was, it's like, I'm going to go because I want to be a good uncle and meet my nieces and, show some attention to my family. But it's like, I can't wait to get back and get back to work. Like it's so much fun when you love what you do. And I finally found a passion of mixing broadcasting with helping people in their businesses. Cause my pain points of not knowing my numbers, not understanding taxes, not understanding how to get paid when I'm worth, and all these mistakes that I used to make. If I was making them I'm not talking year 4 or 5 into my business. This wasn't, of course, year 1 was a train wreck, but even year 4 or 5, the Small Business Administration says that 80% of businesses fail those first 5 years. And when I was in year 5, I was hanging on life support. Actually, my other income from the radio station, and I also had another side hustle at Carrabba's. That's a whole other story.
Right.
That was paying my bills because my lawn care business, even into year 4 or 5, was so raggedy because I just didn't know my numbers. I didn't know my pricing. I didn't have efficiency. And so as I do coaching calls, I'm sure as you do coaching calls, we're seeing there's so many improvements that could be happening in this industry. So it's fun to take my passion with broadcasting and help people get those firm foundations in their businesses, and then see them, like we share all the time, Brian, is that our ceiling can be other people's launching pad or floors. And there's a guy named Grayson Sawyer. He's up in North Carolina. He listens to my podcast, and from listening to my podcast, he heard the Hardscape Academy commercial, and he bought Caleb's how to do stone patio pavers, extensive teaching. He watches that, and now the guy's out here. He has a whole landscaping division, and they're doing hardscaping, and he has a lawn care division, and he's using my bookkeepers, and his business has this foundation. He's making all this money, and he gives a little bit of credit to finding all this information on the show. And I'm seeing this guy soar, and I'm just like, oh man, this is so encouraging to see the impact where guys are so much further along than me in year 5 of their business. But it's because they're listening to Fullerton Unfiltered podcast, Kid Contractor podcast,
right,
LCR Media podcast, Green Industry podcast. And so those stories encourage me to continue to get better guests on. And I know we're tight on time, but I just want to share one more thing. You were mentioning Joe Rogan getting to sit there and talk to Jocko and Gary Vee and Elon Musk and all these brilliant minds that come through his studio. This podcast has transformed my business operations by getting to talk to, last week on the program, we had your friend Corey Ballard.
Yep.
This week on the program, we have Phil's Lawn Care. He's out in Idaho, and I learned from him. And then you're going to be my guest on tomorrow's show, and I learned from you. And then next week, we got Keith Kalfas, and I learned from him talking about pricing. And so as I've done 700 plus of these, and some of the shows I quarterback solo, but a lot of them are interviews, definitely several hundred interviews. I learned from you guys as I interview you, and I hear your business stories and your best practices. When I get to talk to Andy Mulder about overhead cost recovery, I'm listening. Like, I'm learning. Like, dang, I got to do a better job of recovering my costs. I'm talking to Keith Kalfas. I don't know anybody else that can get paid what they're worth and to have the confidence he has to charge premium pricing, and Dr. Frank with marketing. And I'm just constantly learning from, I guess you mentioned James Mansky earlier. He has multi-million dollars in revenue, a year. And I'm learning from how he scaled his business and all this stuff. If it's transforming my life, I think for sure those listening, it's having a benefit as well. So
amen. And correct, there it was James, not Jeff Mansky. My bad. I got to get him on the show still. People message me and they're like, hey, can we get on the show? And I'm like, possibly. Give me your story, give me your life, just because I like to vet a little bit. And that was from like December, January. So if I haven't had you guys on the show, relax. Like, we'll get you on the show. I'm doing the best I can here. It's like drinking from a fire hose from the lawn care community, trying to, dish it back out to give you guys great content. But, I'm juggling 5 different things here and got real life going on just like all of you guys, but so many great people on that we can't wait to have on the show as well in the future.
Yeah, I love when you have, because I get hit up all day long, like, hey, can I be on the show? Can I be on the show? Can I be on the show?
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say, because normally, well, let me just say this. Then when someone who asks, can I be on your show, and I hear him on your show, that's my vetting process. Like, okay, let me listen to this. And then I'll give a positive example. My boy Jarvis down in Mississippi, he's blowing me up, man. Hey, can I be on your show? Can I be on your show? Can I be on your show? I mean,
Kingdom
wearing me out. Yeah. And then I see Jarvis, you put out an episode with him a couple months ago. And so I'm tuning into that, and I'm like, oh, man, this is a great story. So that was my vetting process. And then I responded. I was like, "Hey, let's do it, bro." But
he was a unique one because I think I hit start. I let him talk for 35 minutes, and all I had to do was hit stop. That guy has got energy and passion, man. That's the thing we're talking about, guys. You can kind of hear it permeate through our voice, but it's the transformation that so many people are having. They're just excited. I need that shot of energy and confidence and that boost every single day. People all around the world are keep talking about getting that booster. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's the Green Industry podcast. It's the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. And by the way, many, many other great podcasts, the LCR to the Kid Contractor to the Andrew Martinez has got a new show, Lone Star Lawn Care, Growing Green Landscape with you name one, you got to name them all. But you guys, I normally just mention Paul's and Caleb's because those are the ones I listen to religiously every day. But there's another dozen great podcasts out there. Type in lawn care, just go through them, and different people with different perspectives and different sized companies. It's tons of great content. But at the end of the day, just as you guys already are, I'm preaching to the choir. Just keep filling your brain with great stuff. I mean, to be honest with you, I listen to a couple lawn care podcasts, but I do listen to a bunch of other great business podcasts. The Deeper Pockets podcast, always listen to Andy Frisella. Those are my go-to, and Rich Dad Radio, and then also Tom Wheelwright. Those are kind of my jam. But Paul, I'm telling you what. One thing that one day I want to make like a not a book of life, but like a book of just thoughts or wisdom to pass on to my daughter or my kids to be is just like nuggets of wisdom, pearls of wisdom. I don't know what it is. I just need to get some stuff down. But one quote that always stuck with me, and this is going to go full circle to your show and what it's doing right now, is, and I read this in Think and Grow Rich, and you guys have heard me say it before, but one of the nuggets of hundreds that I've taken out of that book, by the way, is a millionaire is not successful because of the amount of money he makes, but because of the amount of value he adds to society. And I'm always thinking about that, meaning two things. If I'm always like talking with Liz and we're like, we need to make more money, or we need to get to a certain number, or we need to do this, it's like you're kind of, that's what we say, but then I immediately have had to retrain my carnal thinking to say, how can I help more people? What do I need to do to help more people? If I want to make $50, I need to help one person. If I want to make $5,000, I need to help a couple people or help one person a lot. If I want to make $50,000 or $100,000, or if I'm like, Liz, we need to make $500,000 more per year. Okay, we need to help either a lot of people a little bit, or a little people a lot, or a lot of a little. You guys know what I'm saying, right? So that's one thing that I'm always trying to remember and to train myself in business, because I think that is the most, in my opinion, the most godly way to do it is just to be others focused and serving your fellow man. So to go full circle to your podcast, Paul, when you see the numbers going up, when you see the brand deals coming in and the money that you get to make, it is a 100% derivative of the value you're adding to your fellow man. And so I know that the sauce that you're putting out there is helping people, right? Because the numbers don't lie. Like there's an old one out there, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. At the end of the day, Paul, your numbers don't lie. and I know people would say, well, I want the numbers, and I want the brand deals, and I want this, and I want that top 100 show. But at the end of the day, my question back to that person always, right, because it's always going to come back to that proposition, how well do you want to help people? How well are you pouring it out there?
Good.
How that's just what I see from you, Paul. And anybody with ears to hear and eyes to see, as I always say, they have the scales removed from their eyes. They can see, Paul, that you are in the flow. You're doing God's work. You're in God's will here of just helping people just grow a more successful life. Not just a lawn care landscaping business. Yeah, we're talking lawn care landscaping. That's the vehicle. But Paul, you're helping people have a better life. And I can just see, like, man, everybody's life is getting 1%, 5%, 10%, 30% better. And you're just helping hundreds of thousands of people across the country. And your numbers are reflective of that. So I'm always thinking to myself, as a competitive person, right? I'm like, man, like I want to catch up to Paul. And and I'm thinking to myself, Fullerton, that's on you. You got to be better. You got to add more value. And that just keeps it humble. It keeps it pure. It keeps it inspiring. Because I'm like, man, I got room to grow. Because if I was doing as good as Paul, I'd have the numbers to boot. And I've never let my spirit get jealous and say, oh, da. No, dude, that's on you. And when that other guy's got that bigger company around town, he's got the nicer truck and he's got that F-350 Platinum, diesel, and it's a $95,000 truck. And you're like, lucky for him, or it must be nice. No, dude, that guy's helping people. That guy's taking care of people. And that's just, Paul, I just want to say, it's amazing to see what you're doing. You inspire me. You encourage me. One, as a friend and as a peer, but like number two, just, dude, you're out there, you're blazing a trail, you're leading the way. The content speaks for itself, man. So I don't know if you got any follow up on that. I just want to say, dude, just keep doing what you're doing. The numbers speak for themselves. And I know people are getting encouraged from your show.
I really appreciate it, Brian. Iron sharpens iron, man.
That's right, brother. Well, really quick here, we'll button this thing up. Of course, we're almost at an hour here, but ironically enough, I was going to ask you about the summer tour. Give us the 90-second plug, because we're going to button this thing up here in about 3 minutes. But give me the 90-second plug about the summer tour that you got going on, and then anything else that's maybe latest and greatest you want to wrap up with.
Absolutely. So, like I was sharing with Brian earlier, I love high quality audio. And the best way to get high quality audio is doing in-person interviews where I can control all the variables. with my Roadcaster podcasting board and the mics and just checking the levels so that when you guys listen, it will sound as excellent as possible. Plus, when you're in person with somebody, you know, and Elon Musk and Joe Rogan are talking and they're in the same room, they have nonverbal communications, and the conversation can be even deeper because you can read the other person even better.
Right.
For all we know, Brian's in his tighty whities right now. I don't know.
These ones, I'm looking down. They're my black ones, man. I'm actually
okay. And you're probably barefoot, right?
Are you in the house? Because this is kind of weird. But I threw a shirt on today.
No.
I'm trying to look professional. I have my bow tie T-shirt on, so my.
Okay. Well, I like my home where you don't wear shoes in the home. It's kind of like a Korean thing or Middle Eastern thing. You don't go into someone's house with your shoes on in other countries. It's just a big no-no. So Dr. Frank comes over wearing these dress shoes, and I was like, hey, leave those at the door. And he's like, I can't record a podcast with my socks on. I have to have my shoes on to be professional. And I was like, no one can even see you. And he's like, it's just a mental thing. And so I reluctantly let him in with his shoes on. But okay, back to
time out. Funny story, and this is there's like whole success type stuff correlated to this, but people who wear their shoes in their house are more in like a work mode. They're activated. They're engaged. So like ladies, after having a baby, they're wiped out, right? Let's be honest. Like that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time, but they're wiped out. But one of the first things they say, same thing if you become unemployed or lose your job, is still get a routine. Get up at 7 or 8, take a shower, put on nice clothes. And then Liz always puts on her jogging pants or whatever they're called, like the Lulus, and then like a tank top thing. But then she always puts on her running shoes, and she wears them inside the house. They're clean, all that mess. But she wears them around the house because it just makes her feel like she's engaged for the day and she's ready to rock and roll. So there is some psychology to that. So and by the way, Dr. Frank, like, we'll roll out the red carpet for him. He can with the value he's been putting out on the show, he can do whatever he wants, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you what, guys. On Fridays, we've been having Frank on the show, and he not only does he have experience of building a multi-million-dollar business with high profit margins, it's in another industry, but business is still business.
Right.
He's always researching. I mean, this guy gives me more Dan Kennedy quotes than this guy. He's a nerd about researching marketing, and so it can help all of us because to go full circle, when we market better, then we have more opportunities, and then we can charge more premium pricing, and we can make more money.
Right,
so
right.
We all got to improve our marketing. But I'm going on tour to Alabama, Arkansas. Going to be hanging out at the Lawn Tools out there in Arkansas. Jason Creole and
who?
Jeremiah Jason Creole.
No. What? Jason who?
Creole.
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 You got it right.
Seasoning in my cabinet called Creole sauce, so I just think that's the last name. I
gotta bust your chops. That and just make sure you wear your Cujos, not your Adidas. Okay, so.
I got you. So as you name one, you gotta name them all. So I'm not gonna name them all, but we're gonna hit up a lot of lawn grows in Arkansas and then Alabama, and then the grand finale is I'll be at Together in the Trade. Hopefully,
cool.
You'll let me set up in the lobby or something and be able to interview guys there all day.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were rounding out the tour coming up to Tennessee then, or if you were just going to fly in. So you're coming up to Together in the Trades at the end of it?
Yeah, I'm going to drive from Arkansas into Nashville, and then similar to how last year I was in the lobby. I probably shouldn't have asked you this on air, but I guess I'll kind of put all my eggs in the basket because I've already promoted I'm coming. But is that cool if I podcast like out in the lobby again?
Oh, yeah.
Something like that?
Dude, 100%. You're always welcome to podcast anywhere at any of the events, bro. You know that. I'll shoot a text off to the Almonds just to confirm, but I don't see that being an issue at all. I mean, we appreciate the cross promotion. You know how that goes. But those are some of the best interviews that you had all last summer. Was people are like marriage conference, all this other stuff. And if you guys listen to the podcast real time, we've got about a month out. There's still tickets. We have like 104 that folks that are coming. Our goal is to get back to 100 folks. I think the room fits 150. So there's still room if you guys want to decide last minute. Togetherinthetrades.com. That's the marriage conference we're putting on. A little plug there. But dude, like, I've never had anybody go to a conference and go, man, this was a waste of time or this was a waste of money. Like, you're going to be so excited, so pleasantly surprised at the content, the relationship building. Come on out, check it out. But there's still tickets to come on down. It's not that expensive to come to the event or get a hotel last minute. We have a room block. But Paul, those interviews that you do at like you said, to echo what you were saying, the in-person interviews are always so much more fun. They're always so much more engaging just by design, just naturally. You know, there, like you said, you can pitch and catch with a guest, body language, you can cut up and laugh, and then there's always like the floating peanut gallery that's like, you know, chiming in, and then it's like, get that headset, you know, and it's like having
yeah,
that.
And everyone's already on that buzz of the so much energy at the conference. Like everyone's just on cloud nine. You know, they left the kids back at home and they're on vacation and they're in a great mood and they're learning and everyone's in a good. It's just so pleasant to podcast from events. I go to all Brian's events, guys. I go to Together in the Trades. I went to the one last year. I come this year. I've been to every single Entrepreneur Academy Live. I've hit up every event you've done. I've been there, and you know, I have it on autopilot. That that's just a part of my routine is to attend events that you and Liz and Kayla and Brittany put on, because you put so much intentionality into making sure it's an excellent event. So
well, thanks, man.
Real
Thank
quick,
you.
I know you got to get going.
Yep.
These short and sweet episodes, I'm not used to these. I have three audiobooks, guys, and the last one is narrated by Mr. Producer. And so after you listen to Fullerton Unfiltered, Kick Contractor, LCR Media, you go through all Green Industry Podcast, you listen to all the podcasts for today, and you're like, oh, it's 10:30 in the morning, and I don't have anything else to listen to. You can listen to Mr. Producer's voice as he reads my new audiobook, 101 Proven Ways to Increase Efficiency, Make More Money in Lawn Care. This is our latest audiobook, and it's the actual practical tactics to grow a better landscaping business. So the Peanut Gallery, they when I wrote my first book, Brian, Cut That Grass and Make That Cash, some of the Peanut Gallery is like, man, there's too many stories. Just get into the point. Like,
Sure.
Just shoot us straight. Give us the tips. And so, and that book was more of like a storyline. So then I literally was like, okay, buddy, I'll just write 101 of my best tips. Kind of had a chip on my shoulder while I was writing this. Like, you want the straightforward information? I'll give you 101 proven ways that you can make more money in lawn care. And it's literally just point 1, point 2, point 3. I go through 101 of them. And anyway, you can listen to that on audiobooks. It's on Audible. And Mr. Producer does a great job. You were busting my chops about narrating my first book, so
you know,
I asked Mr. Producer if he could narrate this one.
I did bust your chops because the way you read it was really slow. But you were telling me there's like an extra couple $1 payout if you hit the next tier, and you had to stretch it like another 20 minutes or something to get to the next tier.
If it's 3 hours long, because you don't set the price of the book, Audible sets it. So
okay.
It goes from $12.95 to $14.99 if it's 3 hours. So the last, I'm like, I know I'm right around 3 hours, so I'm like, welcome to the show. Like,
listen, guys, we're
and then it ended up being 4 hours, so it was an hour extra. I didn't even need to drag it out.
That's funny as heck, man. I was joking. I was busting your chops. I'm like, you got to listen. It's a great book if you listen to it at 1 1/4 speed, because you can adjust your playtime on all the different apps, And so at 1 1/4, it sounds like Paul's normal, but like at 1x speed, it's like, my name is Paul. How you doing today, y'all? And it's not that it's not that bad, but it's funny, Paul. It's gonna come full circle because I'm Mr. Excellence in broadcasting over here myself. Because eventually, when I put out some different books here, I'm not even going to talk about that right now. A whole nother thing for a whole other time.
I'm not going to say nothing, man.
No, I'll give you some encouragement. I got some good updates. I've actually finished the third book. So
wow. Yeah,
I got to write the first two, but it's weird. Like you get so excited about a certain topic, and I had this last couple months. I think I've taken 13 flights in like 4 months. It's been fun and cool. A lot of it's actually family related, which is why it's really fun and cool. A couple business ones mixed in there, but Liz and I's word for 2022, excuse me, is all about family and making memories, because we just burnt the candle at both ends for so long. I just wanted to just have some family time. So anyway, in every flight, I've made it a rule: no Netflix, no sleeping, no nothing. Right. And because I'm like, I can never find time, right? Because just like you guys, we can never find time. And I'm like an excuse removing kind of a dude, but at the same point, I'm like, dude, it's been a year since I told Paul I have this thing out. Anyway, I wrote the third book, so I got to get 1 and 2 done, but I just got all charged up about this topic, and I'm so excited. I got more to come on that later, but so that being said, like, I'm busting your chops about how you read your book, but then I'm thinking to myself, hey, numbnuts, you got to read yours out loud too. And I'm not the most articulated person, right? So it's going to be really interesting to see how many takes this thing is going to take. But any which way, more on that later.
And you got to pay Mr. Producer to edit out all the ums and you-knows and awkward pauses. So the more smooth you are, the less that bill will be. But if he's got a lot of extra work to do to edit all that stuff out, then you'll have sticker shock when you get that editing bill for an audiobook, man. It ain't like no podcast, just to give you a heads up.
Well, I thought when I hired him on for full-time editing, he said he would give me free voiceover work. So does that not fall under the free voiceover category?
You gotta deal with him with that. But I'm just saying, a 4-hour audiobook is like 25 man hours of like, because if you actually listen to the audiobook, you know, like every little awkward pause or ah or cough or whatever, you don't hear any of that. I'm really proud of the first 2 audiobooks of how he edited them. But then the third one, obviously, because it's his voice, he does all of it. And it sounds absolutely perfect.
It's awesome.
I could listen to him read a shampoo bottle, you know, the ingredients on shampoo.
You know, him or Morgan Freeman, you know, it's just like, I agree. Like you hear him like narrate, like going to the zoo, like this is the kangaroo station, you know, and you're just like, okay. You know, I don't know. It's just funny how those guys are. Well, we'll button up right here. I don't know if everybody wants to hear us yak about audiobooks. I'll tell you what, it's funny. Any 30-year-old you meet who's accomplished almost anything in whatever their respective field is or are, they always want to say they want to write a book. Whether you're a sales guy or a real estate person, it's just weird. I don't know. When you turn 30, 35, 40, you want to write a book. And it's really interesting because it's a lot more work than people think. Now, here's the thing. It's also not as hard in 2022 to do it as you think compared to, you know, having a publishing house, you know, put together a book. You had to be a who's who 20 years ago to get a book, you know, published, unless it was some PhD article that, you know, you have at a university that nobody's ever going to read. Okay. So one thing, it's not as hard as you think, but number two, it's a lot of effort. It's difficult. Because if it was easy, I'd already have mine out, but any which way, more to come on all that later. I still like, just like I was talking about you earlier, Paul, making a suggestion to, you got to do like a 2-hour deep dive about your whole story. Like we've all heard like the yuck stories and you know, who some of your clients are and the success you've had the last couple of years, but it's just fun like hearing the whole lineage, man, like the origin story. So I want to hear like where you grew up, how you know, where you went to college and what you were studying and all these different pivots and life transformations and transitions, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, man. I don't know if that'd be somebody needs to interview you for it, or if you just can do like a 1.5 hour kind of tell all like the Almonds did with the episodes, right? On 100, 101, 102. But you gotta, my suggestion, because I know you probably as well as almost anybody listening to the show, but there's still a lot of puzzle pieces missing that I don't know like your full story, man. I just, I love hearing the deep dive, like behind the scenes kind of, you know, where you got to where you are today. So any which way, that's what I want to do with my books, is just kind of throw my personal whole story out there as well. Because we get the podcast, it's interviews, YouTube, it's like the day-to-day, but I want to go all the way back to the beginning and just kind of say, hey, here's how we got to where we are. And man, Liz and I literally, guys, came from nothing. Like trailer parks, low income, the whole deal. We have not arrived by any means, but 20 years from now, people are going to go, holy crap. Like, I hope people can look at our life and say, if they can do it, I can do it. And you know, you might have been dealt a rough hand at the beginning of your life. And Paul, I know you come from a very similar kind of a economic situation that Liz and I did. But it's crazy to see, like, you can, with a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, a lot of consistency, you can change your stars. You can make things happen. And that's always the message I'm trying to put out, is like, if we can do it, you can do it. And Paul, you have a great story just like that. So any which way, we'll button up right here, man. We're just at about an hour. So appreciate your time, man. I know I don't want to take it for granted that people know you, but at the same point, if somebody's maybe new to the show, they're listening for the first time, where can people find you and go down the rabbit hole of Paul Jamison?
Absolutely. We have over 700 podcast episodes on the Green Industry Podcast. And actually, if you're listening to this show in real time, on tomorrow's program, we'll have Brian Fullerton on there. And I actually asked him, how do you manage a successful lawn business, a successful media business, while being a successful father to Emmy and husband to Liz? And Brian's answer is very motivating. So you can listen to that program on the Green Industry Podcast to be dropping tomorrow. And then if you want even more, check out our audiobooks. Again, we have 101 proven ways to increase efficiency, make more money in lawn care, cut that grass, make that cash, and best business practices for landscapers. And those audiobooks are, very focused on a topic that will help you take your business to the next level as well. So
awesome.
I love broadcasting, and I hope that you guys will find value in the audiobooks and the podcast.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, guys, I'll give you a quick little motivation, I'll just ask you straight up. Can you guys buy one or two of Paul's books? You're like, well, that's kind of weird. That's kind of forward. Yeah. Because, here's the deal. You can't just give somebody $20. People are saying all the time, hey man, whatever I can do to support you. It's like, the upcoming rapper who's like, hey man, I'm just trying to get my name out there, buy my CD. And then you're like, no. And then he makes it and then you buy a CD. Well, he needed you to buy a CD when he was broke. You know what I'm saying? So here's the deal. If you guys love Paul and you guys want to reciprocate, it's kind of awkward to just hand somebody $10 or $20 or PayPal them $100. That's kind of weird. But what you can do is you can buy their book. You can buy their book where Paul makes $10. You can support him. You can help him stay focused. You can help him have a full-time career podcasting. It takes time. It takes money. Paul's still got rent to do. It's hard for him to go out and mow grass while he's doing the podcast, right? So he's all in on the podcast. This is his bread and butter. And you know what? If you guys want to reciprocate, think about this. How many podcast episodes have you downloaded for free and just take? And it's okay. Paul hopes that you do that. I hope that you do that. But here's the thing. It's nice to reciprocate in life. And, whether you got a $50,000 lawn care contract because of a resource from myself or Paul or whoever, there's no skin in the game to have to reciprocate, right? That's the best part about all this kind of content. But man, I'll tell you what, I'm a very, very thankful human being. And anytime I can reciprocate with somebody by PayPaling them, a gift card to Carrabba's or Applebee's. Well, Paul probably doesn't want Carrabba's, but anyway. But if you can send somebody a gift card or buy their book or buy their T-shirt or buy their merch or at a minimum hit thumbs up or leave a review, man, I'm telling you what, it's the reciprocity that I'm really, really always focused in on and kind of honed in on. So you guys, I'm preaching to the choir again. You guys already do this kind of stuff, but don't get so busy where you forget, hey man, people are pouring it out there. Send them a message at a minimum. Say thank you. You know what I mean? I'm always trying to remind people of that because in this culture today, it's a what have you done for me today kind of a world. And don't forget what people have done for you yesterday. Okay, so that's just my encouraging word. So, Paul, we appreciate you, brother. We'll definitely listen to the episodes that are coming out this week. I'm excited about hearing what I said about 2 weeks ago when you batched out our episode. I don't even remember anymore, but we'll be listening in, man. So thanks again for your time, and we'll hopefully see you together in the trades, and then probably shortly thereafter at Equip.
Got it. See you soon, Brian. Thanks for your time.
All right, brother. Over and out. You have a great night. And guys, we'll look forward to catching up with you here on the next one.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
This has been a Brian Fullerton and Mr. Producer production.